So they took maybe 20 bucks and an old watch? Mr. Mansell, did you even take a swing?
No.
The villain reveal for Nobody 2 has set up a pretty intriguing sequel, hinting that we might even see something like John Wick's High Table introduced in the movie. After Nobody made a strong debut, the sequel was given the green light and is set to drop in August 2025. While we've gotten a bunch of updates on Nobody 2, the biggest news so far is definitely the announcement of who will play the main villain. Not only does this bring some serious star power to the cast, but it also suggests the Nobody franchise could be taking on even more of that John Wick vibe. Here's everything we know about the upcoming movie. Given how John Wick has become one of today's biggest action franchises, it's no shock that Nobody shares a lot of its DNA. Both franchises were created by Derek Kolstad and feature that signature gun fu style, with relentless leads taking on tons of enemies. While Keanu Reeves' series is definitely on a larger scale, Nobody actually does some things even better, though it clearly takes some inspiration from Wick's world. With Nobody 2 on the way, there's still a lot the sequel can borrow from the billion-dollar John Wick franchise. Plus, the new villain hints at Nobody's potential to introduce its own version of the High Table. The big news here is Sharon Stone being cast as Nobody 2's main villain, which could mean the franchise will follow a similar path to John Wick's villain development. In John Wick, things started with a Russian crime boss, and then the stakes ramped up with a powerful faction in the second movie. Nobody 2 might do something similar. Hutch's mysterious phone call at the end of the first movie hinted at this, with the protagonist released from police questioning due to an influential caller. But that caller may not actually be on Hutch's side. Instead, they could be a powerful new adversary. This brings us to Sharon Stone's role. She could be the one who orchestrated Hutch's release, showing she has serious authority over the police. Unlike Yulian Kuznetsov's impulsive, hot-headed style, Stone's villain could be a calmer, more calculated threat, wielding influence over street-level criminals and shifting Nobody toward dealing with powerful leaders who pull strings from the shadows. Stone's iconic Basic Instinct villain already showed she can blend charm with a dangerous, cold-blooded streak, making Hutch's next opponent his toughest yet. The High Table is one of John Wick's most interesting elements, and Nobody 2 could establish something similar, with Stone's character likely playing a more puppet master role than going head-to-head with Odenkirk. This setup could mean Hutch ends up facing a more complex, deep-rooted group of enemies. While it may not mirror the High Table exactly, it could bring more dangerous figures into the spotlight. Stone's character could raise the stakes, creating memorable, layered conflicts and more enemies for Hutch to take on, which would strengthen the Nobody series and bring Hutch closer to John Wick's status as an unstoppable force against an entire underworld. With that said, let's dive a bit deeper into what we know about Nobody 2 so far. Set photos have just given us our first peek at Bob Odenkirk's return as Hutch, as filming for the sequel ramps up. Director Timo Giganto posted a few shots on X, and fans are thrilled to see things taking shape. In one of the photos, Giganto is hanging out with John Wick co-director David Leitch, who's back on board as a producer for Nobody 2, bringing his expertise from both Nobody and John Wick back into the fold. Another photo showed Giganto and Odenkirk together in an elevator, giving us a taste of the gritty vibes we can expect. Giganto's caption, "Grateful is an understatement, #Nobody2, pretty much sums up the excitement on set. And it gets better. Nobody 2 is already one step closer to release because filming has officially wrapped. Just 2 months after cameras started rolling, Giganto took to Instagram to announce that principal photography was complete. He shared a picture of the clapperboard, presumably snapped after the last scene was filmed, and captioned it with, "The body is exhausted, yet the heart is full. The pride is humbled while the universe is expanding." Clearly, this project has been both intense and meaningful for the director and crew. Nobody 2 was originally announced back in 2021, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the recent Hollywood strikes, the production schedule hit a few bumps. However, since filming finally kicked off in August 2024, everything's been running smoothly, and now, with shooting wrapped up, the film is officially set to hit theaters on August 15th, 2025. While we'll still have to wait a bit for that release date, it's reassuring to know that production sailed through without major hiccups. This all means we're one step closer to seeing Bob Odenkirk back in action as Hutch Mansell, facing off against a whole new level of villainy with Sharon Stone stepping in as the mastermind. With Nobody 2 now wrapped, the hype is definitely building. Odenkirk's return, coupled with Giajanto's intense direction and Leitch's producing expertise, is shaping up to make Nobody 2 an action-packed follow-up that fans of the original, and fans of John Wick, won't want to miss. Even with all the buzz around Nobody 2, the sequel could definitely take a page or two from the mega-successful John Wick franchise. And let's be real, we're all hoping Nobody 2 goes bigger, like John Wick Chapter 2, because there's a lot it could learn from John Wick's first sequel back in 2017. Over the course of 4 movies, John Wick kept raising the stakes, amplifying both the violence and the drama. The second film had a bigger budget than the first, thanks to the original John Wick being a huge hit, which allowed for more elaborate stunts and intense action that fans loved. With Nobody's success, its sequel has the chance to level up in a similar way. We don't know the exact budget for Nobody 2 yet, but if it's anything like John Wick, it'll probably be bigger this time around. For some perspective, John Wick quadrupled its budget, and John Wick 2 did the same, bringing in more money and delivering more jaw-dropping action sequences. The formula clearly worked, so they kept pushing it further in the sequel, and the results speak for themselves. Sure, Nobody and John Wick have their own unique vibes, but if Nobody can tap into a bigger budget for more dramatic, large-scale action, it could hit the same kind of sweet spot with audiences. With the first movie proving that people are here for Hutch's story and style, Nobody 2 could really benefit from leaning into larger action scenes and a more intense production. If it can crank up the scale, violence, and overall action like John Wick did, Nobody 2 might just be a huge success when it drops in 2025. Furthermore, Deadline has confirmed that Christopher Lloyd is back for Nobody 2, reprising his role as Hutch's father, David Mansell. In the first film, David stepped up during Hutch's showdown with the Mafia, using his FBI background to hold his own in shootouts. Details on the sequel's plot and David's role aren't out yet. Bob Odenkirk, known for his iconic role as Saul Goodman in Better Call Saul, surprised fans in Nobody with his intense action scenes as a former assassin. Odenkirk's return is obviously essential for the sequel, but Lloyd and Connie Nielsen also added depth to Hutch's world, providing him with family bonds that grounded the story as the stakes rose. Lloyd, at 85, even showed off some impressive action chops in the final showdown. Both Becca and David are valuable additions to Hutch's family and potential backup. While Nielsen and Lloyd have been confirmed, other actors from the first film, like Michael Ironside, RZA, Colin Salmon, Gage Monroe, and Billy McClellan, haven't yet been confirmed to return.